The doors of Lecture Hall 12 parted with a smooth hiss. A dozen species turned in unison. Some recoiled. A few whispered in languages the translator implants hadn't caught up with yet. All eyes fixed on the human. Lieutenant Commander Rhea Carter stepped through the threshold, helmet under one arm, scorch marks decorating her plated shoulder. A crust of alien blood flaked from her knuckles as she adjusted the strap of her utility pack. The crisp scent of ozone and char clung to her like a second skin. She walked in slowly, boots thudding against the polished obsidian floor, leaving behind faint prints of ash. At the front of the hall, Chancellor Vurok Nazir straightened. His violet scales bristled. "You are 43 standard minutes late, human." Rhea raised an eyebrow. Traffic on the Threxian moon. Rebellion. Civilians pinned under mortar fire. No time for detours. Gasps rippled across the chamber. She reached the center dais, dropped something onto the glowing panel. A cracked insurgent patch, burnt cloth fused with metal. "Consider this my late slip." Silence gripped the room like a chokehold. Dean Alar Vox, a luminescent being of gaseous origin, shifted in their containment orb. "Commander Carter. This is an academic institution, not a battlefield." "And yet," Rhea replied, her voice flat, "the battlefield found me." She didn't wait for permission to sit. Her chair hissed in protest against the weight of her combat gear. Her breathing was steady, but inside she felt the old thrum, that coiled edge from combat. The one that never left, even when the fighting did. Vurok stepped forward, tendrils flicking with contempt. "Once again, humanity mistakes violence for valor. You bypassed protocol, disregarded interstellar neutrality, and imposed your primitive solutions on a sovereign planet." Rhea leaned back, cracking her neck. "Funny. Thought saving 600 noncombatants from summary execution was the ethical thing to do. No authorization, no council approval. There was no time." Dean Vox pulsed, a shift of blue rippling through their glow. "Explain." Rhea exhaled slowly, finally setting the helmet beside her. Threxian separatists were staging a trial for captured civilians, children, elders, medics. The court was a disguised kill zone. My transport intercepted a distress call en route. I assessed, diverted, neutralized the threat, and extracted survivors. Minimal force. Define minimal, Vurok sneered. I shot only the ones aiming weapons. The hall rustled again, whispers, eye rolls, tendrils curling in disapproval. Rhea could feel their unease. Not fear. Worse, uncertainty. She didn't fit their mold. Too capable. Too blunt. Too human. Dean Vox hovered a moment. "Commander, this is the Scholarium. Not the front lines." "Understood. Just hoping to learn how to avoid front lines in the future." It was the wrong answer. Vurok's glare darkened. "A student who intervenes in every interplanetary skirmish will not last long here. We are scholars. Negotiators. Not saboteurs." Rhea stiffened. "I didn't sabotage anything." "Oh? Then what do you call storming a Threxian war camp uninvited?" "I call it being human." The silence was louder than any battle she'd fought. Dean Vox floated closer, pulsing with deliberation. "Your presence here was already controversial. Some on the council believe your actions validate the worst fears about your species." "Let me guess," Rhea said, standing again. "We're emotional. Reckless. Dangerous." "Correct," Vurok snapped. "You humans solve everything with fists and fire. And yet, Chancellor," she said coldly, "you're still alive to say that. Because somewhere, a human was willing to step into fire on your behalf." Vurok opened his mouth, but Vox interrupted. "We cannot change what has occurred. But we can assign consequence." The Dean shimmered silver. "Commander Carter, your field diversion violated protocol. You will undergo a full ethical review and must participate in the upcoming diplomacy simulation as lead negotiator." Rhea frowned. That's 2 days away. Exactly, Vurok hissed. Let us see how the warmonger handles words instead of weapons. She wanted to argue. She didn't. Instead, she nodded once. Fine. I'll be there. With or without a rebellion in the way. As she turned to leave, someone in the seats called out. A voice like fluted wind, young, curious. Did you really carry a wounded Threxian on your back? Rhea paused. The memory flashed, sharp pain in her shoulder, the wheeze of the injured alien as blaster fire tore through the night. She didn't turn around. Yeah, she said. I did. And then she walked out, leaving soot, silence, and judgment in her wake. Rhea's boots echoed through the curved halls of the Scholarium, each step louder than her thoughts. Her uniform, scrubbed of rebel blood and ash, still smelled like ion scorches and adrenaline. Around her, students floated, scuttled, glided, avoiding eye contact. She'd become a cautionary tale overnight. At breakfast, her tray sat untouched. 2 Hexland Parnixians whispered across from her table. She heard Primitive and Trigger happy despite the failing translator filters. Rhea pushed the tray away and left. Her next class was Multi-Species Ethical Frameworks. A contradiction wrapped in academic gloss. The room was cold, deliberately humid to accommodate aquatic life forms. The moment she entered, a hush fell. She took her seat in the back, far from the Guild Sarthri and phosphorescent Crenari cluster. No one looked her way. Professor Eli Venn, an elderly cloud-like being suspended in a magnetic orb, floated in. Today, it rasped, we explore the limits of intervention. When is it right to interfere? When is an action more ethical than action? Rhea knew the target. Let us begin with the Threxian incident, Eli Venn said, turning to her. Lieutenant Commander Carter, your summary? Rhea stood. Her voice was even. I received an unencrypted distress call en route. Confirmed hostiles targeting civilians. Local authority was compromised. I made a decision. I acted. Eli Venn pulsed blue. You bypassed all protocol. If I hadn't, they'd be dead. Perhaps their deaths were inevitable, murmured a tall insectoid student, clicking its mandibles. Rhea met its compound eyes. Maybe. But I wasn't going to watch it happen just to keep a clean report. Professor Eli Venn floated forward, neutral. And what if your presence escalated violence? She stared ahead. Then I shoulder that weight. Not them. There was silence. Then Eli Venn turned to the room. Debate, it declared. Divide into groups. One side will defend immediate intervention. The other, strategic abstention. Begin. Students shuffled into their pods, forming circular debate spheres. Rhea remained still. She wasn't invited to either side. Later that evening, she sat alone in the observation garden. Caltheron 9 hung in the sky below, veiled in soft rings of ice and gas. The stars beyond it blinked like indifferent eyes. I expected more fire from you. Rhea didn't turn. She knew that voice, smooth, smug, poisonous. Chancellor Vurok. Come to give me another ethics lecture? The Chancellor approached, his robe flowing behind his tall, angular frame. His scales shimmered faintly under starlight. Odd, he said. You charge into death willingly, yet tremble when asked to speak without a weapon. I'm not trembling. No? Then why did you let the others silence you? She finally looked up. Because they already made up their minds. Talking just wastes breath. He smiled thinly. A very human sentiment. Rhea's voice was flat. Why do you hate us? Hate? He tilted his head. I fear your kind. That is not the same. She stood, slowly. Fear us because we act? No. Because you refuse to evolve. You conquer. You retaliate. You call it survival, but it's domination dressed as necessity. We survived Earth, Rhea said. We survived each other. We had to be hard. He studied her. Exactly. And now you bring that hardness here. Into this place of balance. Rhea stepped forward. Balance without courage is just stagnation. For a moment, nothing moved. Then he turned, silent. The next morning, Rhea entered the diplomacy simulation chamber. It was a holographic amphitheater, adjustable gravity, fully reactive AI hosts, and programmed tensions tailored to the participants' species. Today's scenario: 2 warring moons with disputed mineral rights. Rhea was assigned as lead mediator for the Selaxian delegation. She scanned the scene. Her co-mediators included a feathered Avenari and a cerebral cluster being named PTO Cash. Both avoided her eye. Her role was clear. Keep the Selaxians from declaring war on the rival Karth Dominion. Easy, if no one sabotaged her. The first negotiation round began smoothly. Rhea offered trade routes in exchange for mining concessions. The Selaxians hesitated but responded positively. Then came the second round. The Karth Dominion accused her of bias. The human already has a record of violent bias, the Karth AI host snarled, transmitting Vurok's edited report across the chamber feed. She killed a Threxian clan elder. Rhea's gut clenched. That wasn't true. The elder had a grenade launcher and was screaming for cleansing blood. But the simulation was rigged. She tried to respond, but her mic shorted, signal interference. Intentional. The debate spiraled. PTO Cash floated away from her. She has compromised the session. We need a new mediator. Rhea's hands tightened into fists. Her heart pounded, but not from rage. From shame. She stepped back, disconnected from the feed, and left the chamber. That night, she sat in the dark alone, staring at the rebel insignia she'd dropped in the lecture hall. Burned edges. Melted metal. A reminder. She had made the right choice. Hadn't she? At midnight, she returned to the simulation chamber. It was dark and used. She accessed the logs. Scrubbed data. Adjusted variables. Reset voice feeds. And then she created a new session. Scenario: unstable ceasefire. Mixed species council. Human assigned as observer. No weapons. No surprises. No emotional landmines. She recorded it, her calmly guiding opposing parties to mutual ground. No flinching. No force. Just words. 2 days later, the dean summoned her privately. Rhea stood stiffly as the glowing orb hummed. We've reviewed the sabotage. You were targeted. I'm aware. Dean Vox rotated slowly. You didn't retaliate. I didn't need to. That restraint, the dean said, is what makes you dangerous. Rhea frowned. That's supposed to be a compliment? It is. Chancellor Vurok has requested your removal. I declined. She blinked. Why? Because unlike him, I see what you are becoming. The alarms began as a low pulse, distant, almost imperceptible. Then the lights in the east wing flickered. Emergency shutters slammed down. The floor shuddered beneath students in the ethics wing. Screams echoed from the Arboretum dome. Rhea didn't wait for permission. She'd been reviewing peace doctrine in Lecture Hall 8 when the tremor hit. She stood before the others reacted, sprinting past stunned students, voice sharp into her communicator. Carter to security, report. No response. The line buzzed. She pulled her emergency kit from her shoulder pack. Pulse stunner. Mini-lens drone. A single-use barrier shield. Not much, but enough. A voice cracked over the intercom. It wasn't from Scholarium Command. This is the Liberation Front of Caltherin. Surrender your governing faculty. This institution is now under lockdown. Resistance will be met with force. The Liberation Front. Fringe extremists with a vendetta against centralized knowledge. She'd heard rumors, small attacks, recruitment campaigns. No one had expected them to breach here. She ran toward the central hub. Chaos. Smoke curled from shattered columns. A group of Sartri students cried out, cornered by two rebels in scavenged armor. One raised a disruptor. Rhea moved fast. "Hey!" she shouted, drawing their aim. She fired the pulse stunner twice. Both rebels dropped in a convulsion of blue static. One twitched. The other was still. She knelt beside a Sarthri youth. "You okay?" They nodded shakily. "Find shelter. Go. Now." They scattered. Outside the dean's chamber, Rhea found the doors sealed. Plasma scorches decorated the frame. A battered station assistant, half his exosuit fried, saw her and pointed weakly. "Control room, east end. They've cut life support. Trying to vent the wing. Where's the Chancellor?" "Safe room. But there's a kill switch." Rhea's breath caught. "The gas?" He nodded. "If they get there, it's over." Her boots thundered toward the east wing. In the control room, 4 rebels worked furiously over terminals. One of them wore a modified GSUS uniform. Rhea froze. Vurok. He wasn't captured. He was helping. Of course, she whispered. He hadn't feared humans. He feared being outpaced by them. And now he was willing to sacrifice a station full of innocents to make humanity the scapegoat. She took a step forward. "Step away, Chancellor." He turned, unsurprised. "I warned them," he said. "I told them you were a threat. But they didn't listen." "You armed a terrorist faction to prove a point?" "No," he said calmly. "I gave them access. Let them do what humans do best. Destroy. Then I would be proven right. You think this ends with your vindication?" "It ends," he said, "with the galaxy seeing who you really are." He pressed a command into the console. Rhea lunged. They crashed together, slamming into the panel. Her pulse stunner clattered to the floor. Vurok shoved her off with a snarl, reaching again for the sequence. She kicked him hard in the chest, his breath wheezed as he collapsed. But the console had begun the countdown, release in 30 seconds. Her hands flew over the interface. Ancient protocols. Alien scripts. Come on. Come on. The vent override required 2 authorization keys. One had already been triggered. She tapped her neural implant, overriding the second manually. Authorization confirmed. Gas release, aborted. Rhea collapsed back in the chair, heart pounding. The aftermath was surgical. Security resecured the station. The dean emerged, unharmed. Vurok was detained. His motives, laid bare in logs and footage, stunned even his allies. Students spoke in hushed voices. Of betrayal. Of fear. Of the human who stopped it all. 2 days later, Rhea stood before the Scholarium Council. No weapon. No armor. Just her. Dean Vox hovered before the assembly. "Lieutenant Commander Carter," the dean began, "you violated no protocols. You acted with restraint. Precision. Compassion. We commend you." A murmur of agreement. Rhea said nothing. But the dean wasn't finished. "You had the power to kill everyone in that room. And yet, you chose another path. Because power without purpose is a weapon," she said quietly. "I'm tired of being a weapon." The council fell silent. Dean Vox's glow dimmed to soft violet. "Then perhaps," the dean said, "it's time the galaxy stopped treating you like one." She left the chamber into a corridor filled with watching eyes. This time, they didn't look away. One by one, heads nodded. Tentacles dipped. Wings fluttered. Silent acknowledgments. She was no longer the outsider who crushed rebellions. She was the human who made a choice.